Okay, I got all my putty off. So all the seams, oh, it's actually one I missed right there. The seams are filled. It's not 100% yet. I still have to go over it again. But you can see all the seams are pretty much filled in. Everything looks like it's, you know, welded together or whatever, all joined up. There's actually some canopy glue drying in there. I used that in some spots, and the rest of this stuff I did with putty. So all I have left to do now is I have to go around this again and kind of go over it and see if there's some spots that I missed. I think there's probably a couple, and then fix those, and then I'm going to paint the whole thing white, and I'm going to wait to attach my cannons and my radar dish sensor array till way later, because I'm going to be moving this thing around a lot. I didn't want to break them off, and I know that's what's going to happen. So yeah, it's looking good. So I got some detail painting done on this thing. I got a lot of the red done. Did most of it by hand, because it's just so hard to mask this ship. I did airbrush this one on both sides, and of course I had to touch it up. I'm still touching up the red. There's still spots where I need to. Either the paint didn't go on very well, or you know, I have to put more on. It's looking good though. There's a lot of spots in this thing where, because you're painting over white, you're painting red over white, which is, I hate painting red anytime, any day of the week. I just don't like it. So what I'm doing here is I used a method to weather this that I'm not really too fond of, to be honest with you, but it does work. And what I did was put masking on. This is like a freaking gallon jug of. This is sort of like a. It's sort of like micro mask, but I like this actually better. It's a little thinner. So this stuff I got at a hobby store. It was $17, but it's probably more than I'll need in my lifetime. So I use this stuff. I put this down in certain spots, and it's real thin. It's like a bluish, but I didn't put it down very heavy. So that was probably part of my mistake. But the problem is when you paint over it, you can't see it anymore. So then you can't see where you have to, unless you put it on really heavy. I can sort of see it if in the right light. I have a lot of light here, so I'm hoping that a lot of this will show up. So after I painted over this, I let this dry. I just painted it on with a paintbrush in certain spots to make it look like there were chips in the paint where I wanted the paint to be removed. Painted over it, and now I'm taking some off. I'm using a toothpick for this. And I'm just kind of scraping away at where that stuff is. And you can see it kind of peeling off. It just kind of peels right off. And it looks more realistic than, at least for my skills, it's definitely more realistic than if I tried to duplicate this with a paintbrush or a toothpick or something like that. It just looks better. I know why people use it, because it does look pretty good. So I'm kind of just taking it off where I see. You don't have to take it off. It's just gonna, if you miss some, it's no big deal. It's gonna, the paint sticks to it. So it's doing a pretty good job of taking paint away of where it would look weathered. And I did that where all the red, well, pretty much where all the red. Now you can see here, I don't know if you can see this. You can see it's picking up. One thing I do like about it too is you're taking away paint versus putting paint on there to simulate chipping, which in itself will make it look more realistic. I mean, it doesn't matter if I don't like the way it looks, I'll just paint over it. But I've yet to have a situation where this didn't work out. So I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to go over the red in spots, and at the same time I'm going to be touching it up. So I'm making some progress. This is kind of bizarre on this ship. I can't find any reference pictures of the starboard side of the ship pretty much at all. It's really weird. But this piece, I know this was hollowed out because they supported the ship in this spot, but there's a blank piece here on the kit. Now on this side, on the starboard side, it's okay, but on the port side, I added a door. So according to what I've seen, this is the door that the stormtroopers blast through at the beginning of A New Hope. And I put some photo etch on there to simulate some doors. So there's really, you know, it was just a flat piece of detail. There was nothing there. So it looks better with the door. I didn't put the door on this side, so I figured there would be a door on this side, and that's supposedly where they blasted through. This was supposedly the escape pod that 3PO and R2-D2 used.
I'm going to regret this.
And right about here is where Darth Vader was interrogating Captain Antilles. So here's what we got. Nice and beat up. Some chipping on the side. So all I did was a combination of things with the fast mask, taking that off. I used sanding sticks to kind of weather the paint. That'll take off edges, and you don't want to leave any like marks in there so it looks like you sanded it, but it works pretty well when you take off paint on the edges. And you know, any raised parts that might get hit with something when it's flying, I took some off the paint here, so it's just not on the paint. It's worn everywhere. There's some scrapes and scuffs on the bottom. It's not done. This is just what I'm, you know, going as I go. I'm kind of just recording because it's a process that you have to make it look like it's weathered, but you don't want to make it look like it's overdone or forced, or, you know. So that's what I'm doing with that. I haven't even put the wash on it yet. I'm just kind of still touching up the paint and wearing it off at the same time. One thing I did forget to mention is there was a reason why I put the dark gray primer underneath the white. And when I was sanding this down and taking out pieces of paint, and you have to make sure you're not sanding or chipping down to the resin, because it will show. So what I did is I just went down one layer of paint, and you can see the gray is showing, which kind of looks like metal. So that's one of the reasons, and the other reason was that I wanted the white to be toned down even more than it was. So that's why I used the gray base coat primer underneath the white. One other thing that I did here, I'm painting the panels, random panels, and I took the color that I mixed for the hull, which is the off-white gray mix. That's the exact same color for the hull, and I just added a drop of gray to it. And what that does is it kind of gives you some depth to the ship, and it also looks like maybe one of the panels was replaced, or it's older, or something. It just differentiates the panel so it doesn't look like they're all the same. You can see a couple of them stick out here, here. There's two up here. I'm kind of just going through and picking out random spots. Some are smaller, some are bigger. It's all part of the process.